Okay. Welcome to a face-to-face class. Thanks for coming. So today we have two different topics that I'm going to squeeze into, little lectures, and they don't fit nicely into the textbook. The textbook does have a chapter on ethics, religion, value orientation, and it's fine, but it's not till like chapter 18. So I want to talk to you about it before we get too far into the class, because I think it's really important that we have a sense of values and ethics and all of that before we get, so we can apply them to different topics that we're about to get into in the class, okay? So there's that. The other thing that isn't anywhere in your textbook is to talk about sex education in schools. And this is important to WCU because they expect people that are going to be, they require health and phys ed majors to take a class on, sexual health, and they want them to know a little bit about sex ed and just a general kind of overview of the topic before they're teachers, so they understand kind of the background and the important part of it. So I'm going to talk to you today about those two topics, but before we get too far, I want to ask you, how are things going in the class so far? Some feedback would be super helpful for me. First of all, I know that sometimes the amount of work for like that week that you did, was it anatomy, like male and female reproductive system? Huge. And then like this week, pretty minimal. How are the chapter quizzes going? Good. Is it good that they're open book? Do you have enough time to take them?
I have enough time.
Do you have enough time to take them?
Isn't it due tonight?
One of them is due tonight, I think. Or one of them.
It's because I screwed up on the test, the first test, right? That one's due tonight. But your chapter quizzes, just the regular ones,
Yeah.
those are every Sunday night at 11:59. But it's the chapter that kind of dictates the stuff. So you know what I'm saying. Here's what I need you to do though. If you ever like Dr. Stringer, this is like twice what we did last week. Can we have some help? Can we extend some of this to the following week? Those are good emails for me, okay? So just know that that's an option for you. Any other feedback?
This is a busy time this week. So like right now, this week and next week and next week, and the 10 assignments per week. It's starting to really ramp up.
Yeah. And here's some feedback for you. On the assignments, like this week, the two assignments are things like, there's one on sex ed. And it's look at these three, choose 3 different sex ed curricula. Tell me what you see in these 3 curricula, and it has some questions for you to answer. And then it says, if you ever had to be in charge of choosing the sex ed curricula for your school, what steps would you take, that kind of thing. You can really make bulleted lists, and you can do little like charts, that says curriculum number 1, wise guys, curriculum number 2, reducing the risk. Like you could just do it that way. You know what I mean? Like I'm open to however you want to do it, but you can organize it in a way so you don't have to type a whole lot if you don't want to do that. Okay? Just so you know. All right, let's talk a little bit about sex ed curricula. Are you with me?
Yes.
I know I have mine on, but I have mine on so I can record. Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. I know sometimes you don't remember you even have it. Let's talk about sex ed curricula for schools. Do y'all remember sex ed in your schools?
Yeah, I remember.
Basically, was it like spotty?
Yeah.
A little bit of this?
There's like nothing really.
Yeah. Do you remember yours? Was it comprehensive, like weeks worth of information, or? Yeah. It was? Good for them. Okay, that's good. What do you remember, Andrew?
Mine was more just like that, obviously we're talking about, but also just like this is a totally normal thing that you're going through right now, like your transition.
Here you go. That's good. Okay, so this class is called Sexuality Through the Lifespan, and sex ed curricula is included in our student learning outcome, and there's categories of curricula, right? So curriculum is what you teach. right? So what you teach. So a sex ed curricula, there's two different types, and this is true of any health-related thing. There's evidence-based and there's non-evidence-based. So when I was a young teacher, I didn't even know about evidence-based curricula, and I did a lot of activities with my students and gave them the content, and we used a textbook for some of it, like it was all there, but it was not proven to be effective. Evidence-based is proven to be effective. And teachers that teach evidence-based curricula, a lot of times they have a script they actually have to use. And they have to say specific things in it. And they have to give the information that is prescripted by the person that wrote the curriculum. So that's the difference. Evidence-based, somebody did the research and they can say, this is an effective curriculum. Non-evidence-based, nobody's done research. Is it effective? It very well could be very effective, but no one has proven with research that it's been effective, okay? So in North Carolina, we have guidelines for what you can teach, and it's called sexual health and safety. Sexual health and safety. So we don't call it sex ed, we don't call it family life. We used to call it family life in North Carolina, but now we call it sexual health and safety. So there it is. And the curriculum really looks at a whole bunch of different experiences. So of course they look at stuff like anatomy and physiology, right? Where babies come from, if you will. A little bit about STIs, a little bit about pregnancy prevention and STI prevention. But now they've shifted more into relationships, right? And one of the things they cover, and this is brand new, is they cover like abusive relationships. Do you think there are abusive relationships in high schools right now? There are, and they don't necessarily even have to be, smacking somebody around, but they're like emotional, like a we do this together because we're a couple, kind of pressure and stuff like that. So, North Carolina is definitely shifting that way. Another thing that's new in North Carolina is they're requiring schools to teach about consent. So you have to be, you want students to have consent before they engage in physical, sexual activities. Okay. As I mentioned, here's some stuff that's on there. In North Carolina, each individual school system decides, do we want to be abstinence-based or abstinence-only? So I want to tell you a little bit about that. If you're abstinence-based, you still teach about birth control methods, but you always say abstinence is the only 100% way to prevent a pregnancy and STIs, for the most part, right? Because some STIs you can get from blood transfusion, you know what I mean? So you teach all the stuff, but you definitely punch up abstinence, all right? And as a matter of fact, the law, we're not even talking about what's recommended by the school board or the standards or anything. The law in North Carolina is that there's an emphasis on abstinence when you teach sexual health and safety. Okay? If you're abstinence only, you don't teach birth control. You don't talk about condoms. You don't talk about the pill patch, the shot, IUDs, any of that stuff. You say the expected standard is abstinence, and this is what we're going to do. Do you guys have any feedback on that? Do you think that's what do you think about teaching
abstinence?
Well, I mean, what do you think about teaching abstinence in schools? I'm going to go to this side because I went to this side for the first one. Yes, no, good idea, bad idea?
Wait, well, abstinence means like
not having sex.
Not having sex, yeah. I mean, some people can practice that because majority of high school students, they already like start thinking about like that stuff as soon as freshman year or sophomore year.
Oh, even earlier.
Middle school, I say middle school, like it's talked about, but that's the time like you explore it through the internet. that's not a good thing to say, but some people really do
It's
as
kind
well.
of happens.
Because they don't want to ask their parents because they don't want their parents to get mad. Like,
Right.
They don't want the person to think.
yeah,
Right.
they don't want their parents to know that they're thinking about it, so they
Yeah.
go to the only resource that they have, the internet or their friends.
Or their friends, yeah. And so then if you're a parent, so imagine yourself as a parent, do you want your kid learning sex ed from porn?
No,
No.
God no.
No, we don't.
It ruins intimacy.
It really does
It
though.
ruins
does.
your.
It ruins the image.
It
It ruins the image of what sex is
relationship
supposed
should
to
look
be. Yeah, like
Yeah.
they think, and like a lot of kids right now, like I know, like my sibling, not my sibling, but like my cousins and stuff. Like I know what they're thinking. Like, oh, I can't even ask my parents because they'll probably spaz.
Right.
Like,
Right.
because we're from the Caribbean, so it's like you can't even like ask somebody that tells you every day to focus on school and
Yeah.
go do this and this about
Yeah.
something you're curious because
Yeah.
you don't want them to get mad and think you're not like
Right.
focused.
Right,
So
yeah.
they go to the internet.
Absolutely, absolutely. We know that it's pretty common for kids to have their first exposure to pornography by the age of around 9. And a lot of it, I think, is by accident.
Probably like 8.
8 or when you're 8 years old, yeah. So we know that that's not uncommon, and we also know some stuff by just looking at behaviors. So again, researchers go out there and they're like, okay, you're a teen parent. Tell me about your sex education. And they're like, oh, I didn't have sex education, or my parents and my church told me I couldn't have sex, and then when I did have sex, I wasn't prepared with birth control, you know. But here's another, this is kind of a parallel concept, and that is they've taken, out of the standards in North Carolina for health education, they've taken everything out about eating disorders.
Why?
They've taken it all out because they found that when you talk about eating disorders in a classroom, students are sitting there going, oh, is that how you do it? Oh, okay. Right? It's like training ground for eating disorders. So is that the same thing for birth control? You know, are kids gonna have sex because they've learned about birth control?
Yes.
I think that's like, if you're gonna at least teach them the right way, like that'd be better than just saying don't do it at all. I mean, of course, I think talking about abstinence is better just because that's gonna teach them not to do it. But if, some of them are gonna do it anyway, so you gotta tell them the right way to do it if they're gonna do it.
Right.
I feel like.
Right. And hopefully, this is where like the value stuff kicks in. And I think that when you're teaching sex ed to middle school and high school kids, you got to talk to them about their values. You got to bring the parents, like you got to send a note home or an email that says, we're talking about sex ed next week in class. If you don't want your child to take this class, let me know.
But they should though.
If you want to see what we're teaching, come on in next Tuesday at lunchtime. I'm available. I'll show you all my, whatever. But you want to bring the parents in because you want parents to be like, yeah, you may have learned this, but here's the rule for our household. You are not having sex till you're 21.
Or people wait till their marriage.
Right. Or the expected standard, if you're abstinent, maybe you don't have sex till you're married. Period. Your wedding night is when you have sex the first time. But I'll tell you what we know about the research we do with kids in schools. So it's called the Youth Risk Behavior Surveillance System, or it's a survey. And you may have had it when you were in school, and they ask you a bunch of questions like, do you use a seatbelt? Do you text while you're driving? How many servings of alcohol have you had in the last 30 days? How many vegetables did you eat? And then they also say, have you had sex? Have you had oral sex? Did you use a condom when you had sex? Did you use birth control pills, patch, shot, IUD, blah, blah, blah. And here's what we know about high school kids. We know that in the low 40s, 40% of them have had sex by the time they graduate from high school. So like 43% of them have had sex. We know that like 80-some% of them didn't use any sort of birth control or condom. And that's a problem. That's the big problem, is they gotta know, okay, I gotta take care of myself. If I don't wanna be a teen parent, if I don't wanna get an STI, not that it's a guarantee you're gonna get pregnant if you have unprotected sex or get an STI, but it's a good idea to protect and up your chances of not having them, right? So So abstinence-based is something that's decided at the community level in the state of North Carolina. But the state tells you that you always want to emphasize that abstinence is a great choice for teenagers. And there's nothing, that's not a hard thing to say when you're teaching. Like, here's a condom, here's how you get it, here's what an IUD does, here's how you find out where to get them, all of that kind of stuff. And abstinence is a great choice for high school kids, right? And here's some refusal skills, here's how to say no if you don't want to have sex, consent, all of that stuff. So teaching sex ed is a little tricky. You want to bring in the parents, but yet you don't want the parents breathing down your neck. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You want them to know what you're teaching, but you don't want them coming in and trying to edit you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you want to be respectful of everybody in your classroom. You may have students that are Muslim in your classroom where males and females don't even touch each other, right? So you want to be respectful of that. You want to be respectful of people who are your Southern Baptist, abstinence till marriage students. You want to be respectful of students who are going to make a different decision than their parents want them to make, right?
Or even like Judaism, very outside the gene pool.
Yeah, you want to be respectful of all those different things. So here's some words. So now we know abstinence is not having sex until you're married. Abstinence-based just means it's included as part of the curriculum. Evidence-based, somebody did research and said, is this effective? Comprehensive STD and pregnancy prevention. This starts at like kindergarten. Comprehensive STD and pregnancy prevention starts when you tell little kids, these are your bathing suit areas, and don't let anybody else touch your bathing suit areas except your parents and your doctor. And your parents should be with you when you're at the doctor, kind of thing, right? We want kids, stranger danger, all of that kind of thing. We also, I think it's super important that kids have a healthy perspective about your body and celebrate your body and have the notion of pleasure. Like, it's not a bad thing to have sex. Like, it's one of the great things in life is to have sex, I think. So you don't want to scare them and make them think that sex is always bad. You know what I mean? You also want them to know that in the right context with the right person, sex is gonna, knock your socks off. It's fabulous. So, you know what I mean? You gotta walk that line of make the best decision for yourself and at the right time, good for you.
But I think now in society, less people are doing it because of being trusted. People may not trust as easily, like their education was maybe a bit distorted, who knows?
Yeah. Well, and we know that your generation is less social.
Fertility.
Unless you're on like a team. You guys are on teams.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Are you on a team?
I was.
Are you on a team? Okay. We know that athletes tend to have really better social skills than their peers because they're used to working in a community, right? So, probably people that are in fraternities and sororities like your social, if you're in a club of any sort, like your social skills are better than people that are taking online classes, and people that are just going to class and turn around, going home, putting on their earphones, not talking to people, right? So they also tend to have higher rates of sex. They tend to have higher, more experiences with sex. Okay, so comprehensive STD and pregnancy prevention. We know actually this is the most effective way of preventing unwanted pregnancies and STIs is comprehensive STD and pregnancy prevention that starts from little kids all the way up. You teach them the names, like, you don't say, this is your willy, right? You're like, that's your penis, right? That's not your yoo-hoo, that's your vagina. Like, you teach them appropriate names, stuff like that. It includes self-risk or sex risk behaviors like having sex without protection, having sex with multiple partners. Your risks go up in those situations. family life, sex ed, reproductive health, and sexual health and safety. They're all the same thing. They're all teaching the same stuff. They're teaching where babies come from, STIs, pregnancy prevention, healthy, relationships, stuff like that. But these are all different names for the same thing. Okay.
So you're saying that if you have sex with partners, your chances of STDs go up?
Well, if you're having a lot of different sex with, or a lot of sex with a lot of different people, they definitely go up. They definitely go up. Yeah. And we'll talk about this when we do STIs. I think I teach you birth control and STIs because I'm like, oh, I really want to teach this because there's so much information and it'll just help you plow through the chapter without, that. So I'm gonna give you an example. I'm just gonna tell you about an example of a activity that you can do, and this is from Reducing the Risk curricular model. And this is an evidence-based type of activity you would do in a sex ed class. So this is all about having refusal skills to say, I'm not gonna have sex with you. Okay. All right. So the setting is a party. You would give students a script. You'd put them in groups of 4. So there's all these groups of 4, and you said, okay, here's the script. And you're at a party, and the idea is that one person is trying to convince the other to leave the party so they can go someplace private and have sex. So here's the refusal skills. This is the stuff you teach before you do the activity. Refusal skills are, don't put yourself in an undesirable situation. That's number 1. Number 2, tell the person you don't want to take the relationship to the next level. Number 3, say no with your body language. Number 4, say no clearly. So you're going to reinforce this one here. And then number 5, redirect your activity. So can you memorize those five steps? Don't put yourself in an undesirable location. Say no, say it with your body, say no again, and then go somewhere else. Okay. So here's the script. So in your group of 4, 2 people are acting out this little skit. The other 2 people have this on a little card or a little piece of paper. And as it happens, as the things come up that are the refusal skills in the skit, those 2 people that are watching, they check it off. Did they do this? Yes, they did. I heard that. Yep, they did that too. Okay. So here it goes. Chris says, I really like kissing you. Let's get out of here so we can have some time to ourselves. And Chase says, I really like kissing you too. I don't want to leave. I want to stay at the party. Chris says, but baby, if we leave, we can have some privacy. And Chase says, I know, that's why I want to stay. Chris says, let's go. I'm really into you, and I think it's time we explore our potential. And Chase says, I don't want to be alone with you now. I'm not ready. Let's go to the kitchen and see what else is going on. Okay.
So clearly he's putting his values in place.
Yeah. So first of all, they're already in an undesirable situation, kind of. Well, no, they're not really. Are they in an undesirable situation? They're at a party, but they're not private. You're not going to get naked in the middle of the party. So, but Chris is trying to get Chase to go someplace else. Tell the person you don't want to take the relationship to the next level. Did that happen? Yes. Did they say no with their body language? We don't know because we didn't see them do it. What does everybody show me? What does no mean with body language?
He might scoot away, like, because it said they was kissing, so he might.
Or just cross your arms.
Yeah, that's a solid no right there. I'm not leaving. Right? Or I'm definitely not leaving. Right? Sit down. What your body does instead of like, oh no. Right?
Yeah.
You gotta make it clear.
This is more effective than the other.
Sometimes you need
It's
to
misinterpreted
they're
as
gonna
like
keep persisting no matter what.
Right.
If you don't make it clear that you don't want to go, somebody that has no common sense is just gonna be like, oh, they're playing hard to get.
Right, exactly. So you gotta be clear. And then at some point you might just have to say no. Alright, so this is a scripted one. Now you're gonna have your groups of 4 make up their own skit. They're gonna make it up, and it's not long. 1, 2. It's only back and forth like twice or 3 times between 2 people. So have them make it up themselves. Then they're gonna switch jobs. The other 2 are gonna be the actors. The people that were just actors are gonna check off, did they do the thing? And theirs are gonna be way more entertaining than yours. But you gotta be careful, because think of high school. Are they gonna maybe take this too far? They might. So you gotta be like on top of them. Okay. So that's an example of a type of activity that you would do in an evidence-based curriculum. Could you do that in a non-evidence-based curriculum, that exact same activity? Sure you could. You could definitely do it. It's just, it's part of an evidence-based activity and they know that it works. So when I was a young teacher and I was teaching sex ed, I did exactly this kind of a skit with my students and had them make up their own. But you know what? I didn't have the check sheet. And we find that the check sheet is really helpful because it makes them go back to what are the refusal skills, right? Okay, so students, okay, yeah. What's the difference from other curricula? You can still do it. You can do it any way you want to. It's just somebody has said, we found this to be an effective activity. What skills are they developing? This is not about birth control. It's about, what is it about? Communication, thank you very much, Jackson. Okay, yeah. So how do these skills apply to other risk behaviors? Can you use this? Can you use this with other, situations? Like I just went to the fair, deep fried Oreo. No, I'm not gonna have that deep fried Oreo. You can use it. You really can use it. Like, get me out of here. There's not a lot of healthy food at the fair, but it's so tasty, isn't it?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Why do they feel like it's so wrong to just tell the truth to kids? Like, do they think they're not gonna take it as well?
That is a great question.
Like, just tell them how it is so
Yeah.
they're
Here's
better
what
prepared.
sex is. Here's the situations you might encounter.
Like, dumbing it down just makes it worse for them. Like, some kids don't comprehend it still. Some kids that are like more advanced, like they're like, okay, that makes sense.
So I'm gonna tell you. So when I was a teacher, I had real conversations with students, but I never wrote anything on the board. Like I had the students say, I'm pregnant, how do I tell my mom?
Ooh.
What's the answer to that one?
Tell her.
You have to tell her.
You have to.
You have to tell your parents.
If
She was afraid her mother was going to kill her.
I mean, that's so
like
weird.
as much as my parents would, if I got someone pregnant, they would be extremely mad.
Yeah.
Because I can't afford to as a child yet. I
Yeah.
don't have the money.
So I talked to those students, I was like, okay, who can you talk to that's a trusted adult that knows your mom? Like who, and it was her aunt. I said, can you talk to your aunt? Can your aunt help you talk to your mom? Yes. Another, same situation. This girl decided to tell her mom in the grocery store. Why?
This is a public place.
Yes.
Can't do nothing.
Yes, because she thought her mom was going to beat her.
But
you know what, her mom, but in both situations, the mother was like, okay. Like, they just found a whole new gear. And it wasn't anger, it was
Love.
It was love, and we gotta figure this out. So yeah, you gotta be real with your students. You gotta be real with your students. And if your students are like, I'm gonna have sex, so let's just start there. Like, I'm sexually active. Now what are you gonna do? Well, let's talk about birth control and STD prevention. Like that's real. That's important. You also are gonna have students, and I know somebody. I used to work with this person. She was a 39-year-old virgin, and got married when she was 39, and got pregnant quickly after she got married, and had a baby. But she was the example of abstinence till marriage. So
Can you imagine the amount of complications at that age though? Because
she was fine. She assured me
it's
she was
just,
fine.
because my aunt was the same way.
Well, I took the textbook for this class. I had an extra one, and I just gave it to her. I said, "Here, this might be helpful." you go. Because you know that you've looked through the textbook. It
Very descriptive.
has a lot of information in it, right? Okay. But yeah, these skills can apply to other risk behaviors. They really can. And it's not just nutrition. It can be, mental health. Like, it looks to me like you're depressed. Let's go talk to we need to do something about it. Like that assertive communication skill can be really helpful. Other things, let's see, nutrition, alcohol. Oh, you're not driving. You've been drinking too much. Give me the keys, right? Assertive kind of communication. Okay. Other teen pregnancy curricula are out there. They're evidence-based curricula. How many do you think are out there? Evidence-based sex ed curricula?
Not a lot.
There's over 60. There's a whole bunch of them. So your assignment for this week, there's a link on the assignment, and it takes you to this PDF with a list of all of these curricula. I want you to look at 3 of them and just do a little exploring. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, some of those questions are not answered in the curricula, and you can Google, you can look them up if you want to, but some of the answers are not they're not there. Like, who funds this curricula? Like, you'll find things that are funded by the Mormon Church. You'll find a curricula that's funded by La Raza, which is, Spanish-speaking group, advocacy group. You'll find some of them sponsored by different churches, by different agencies. There's a gazillion things out there. So I want you to just take 3 that are interesting to you. It'll say, who is funding this? You may not see the answer to that. Just write NA, not available. Or info not there. Whatever you want to say. But it's okay if you say, I don't know. That's an okay answer for this assignment for some of them. It'll say, who is this aimed towards? There's some for gay and lesbian youth. And they're pretty obvious in the title. This is for gay and lesbian youth. This is an abstinence-based program, right? So people that believe in abstinence only. Stuff like that. All right, that's your assignment for this week. This is a link to data if you want to see like pregnancy rates and stuff like that. So the state of sex education in America, it changes all the time, but this is the latest information that I have on who's doing what. So sex ed is mandatory in any of the states that are colored in red, and red does not mean Republican. I know we're all electioned out, right? But in this situation, red just means that it's mandatory sex ed. And North Carolina, God bless them, has mandatory sex ed. HIV education is mandatory in certain states, so those are blue. I used to teach in Michigan, and they sent me to training on HIV and AIDS education. Like, I got out of school for 2 days, so that was kind of fun. Sex ed and HIV is mandatory. No clear curriculum in gray states. States stressing abstinence have nothing, but I think it's really neither or no. If we were to look at pregnancy rates in the United States, unexpected pregnancy rates, I can tell you that it goes like this, right across here and down. It's in the southern U.S. So having sexual health and safety curriculum in schools, to me, is really important, especially when we have super strong legislation that's coming before different states about abortion. Like, you don't have a safety net if you're a teenager with an unintended pregnancy in Texas right now. So sex educators and health educators need to step up and do a really good job, in my opinion.
Florida sex education is terrible.
Florida right now, they have on their ballot is, do we want to protect abortion in our Constitution, I think. You're from Florida?
Yes.
Are you absentee voting, or did you already get a ballot? I think there's something, do you know what I'm talking about? Am I right? There's something like that.
I ain't been home so long, I don't even know.
Yeah.
Actually, when does voting start? you guys?
If you got an absentee ballot, they were supposed to mail them out like last week. But like I know in Transylvania County where I live, they weren't able to mail them out because they have to take that guy, Robert Kennedy Jr., they have to take his name off the ballot. So they had to reprint them and they haven't sent them out yet.
Wait, so this is weird. Anyways, like if we voted in the 2020 election, do we have to re-register again in a different county?
I don't,
Because I voted in Buncombe County.
Where do you live right now? Where's your permanent address?
Buncombe County.
Buncombe County, that's where you have to vote. But you can go home and vote. Like they have early voting in, I think early October, early voting starts. And then you could just go home on election day and be part of the excitement. Stand in line, get your sticker.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Because I thought I could just vote like in any county. If I'm registered in North Carolina, I guess I can.
You have to vote in the county where you're registered to vote.
All right.
It's worth looking into. You should do it. I'm just saying, you should vote. It's important. How did you like that election assignment? Did it clarify anything for you?
Yeah.
Actually, I may go back to the website and just like read over each plan and just like analyze it. Just keep
Yeah, you gotta look at stuff.
I'm not gonna lie.
I like that about you. Yeah. So I will tell you this. I got tenure this past year. Like in July, I got tenure. I would not have done that assignment before I got tenure with you guys. Even though I'm trying to be like, you know, look up the facts, make your own decision. And honestly, I respect your
That's
decision.
real.
I do. I respect your decision. It doesn't matter to me what it is. I respect your decision. I think you need to be educated on the issues and the candidates and that sort of thing. But it's dicey, isn't it?
It is, because
It's dicey.
both sides, like,
I know. Like my sister and I have completely different political views, and we don't talk about it. We don't talk
I
about it.
can't.
We have learned not to talk about it.
It's
It's
hard.
like a taboo subject. Just don't.
Yeah.
Cause it's like one side, like I see where you're coming from, but there's also this, and this, and then with the side you're on, yeah, I'm coming from this point, but there's also this.
I know.
It's like picking.
And even the
who's worse.
Pope, who has always said abortion was the strongest, you know, determinant in his support of one candidate or the other. And you know, if you're Catholic, you listen to the Pope, right? Even the Pope this year said, for the immigration population in Ohio and the devaluing of those humans in Ohio, I'm not happy about that, and I'm not happy about the other side's view on abortion, so you're just gonna have to make up your own mind. The Pope even backed out of it. So that's pretty interesting to me. Okay. When you look at these different curricula, you'll see these are just some different things that might come up.
Wise guy, what?
Wise Guys has been out there for a long time. They'll take at-risk kids in the school, boys, who somebody has said, this kid is definitely talking about sex. They'll put them all together, and somebody will come in after school. It's an after-school program, and somebody will do a special sex ed curriculum with them. It's like 6 weeks or something, but it's like once a week or something. They come in, they talk to them about condom use, where to get condoms, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, Wise Guys. And the opposite of it is called Smart Girls. So they do the same thing with girls. It's the same curriculum, basically. Okay. So curricular decisions. First of all, you got to start with trends. Like, are there a lot of teen pregnancies in your community? You got to know that. What are the STI rates in your community? You should know that. So know the trends, local and national. Know expert opinion research that surrounds your community issues, starting at young ages and going up. Not like all of a sudden talking about sex when you're in middle school, but starting talking about sex early on, and not necessarily intercourse, but private parts and names and all that kind of stuff. Where babies come from. Form a curriculum selection committee. All right, if you are a teacher and your principal says to you, we have to have a new sex ed curriculum this year, and you're in charge of it, right? Here's what you gotta, I would say, form a selection committee. Get some parents, get the school nurse, get the health department. Some health teachers, of course, get your principal, get some other teachers, local university representative, I did say parents over there, school health training center, get people that know about sex ed and your community and what your kids need, get them together, give them some options. You know, first of all, determine your values. Are you going to be abstinence-based or abstinence only? Right? So identify your goals, examine the options, and don't make that, what I'm trying to say is don't make that decision by yourself. It could be the end of your professional career, it really could be. Get a collection of people around you, form a committee, meet formally, get some options, have them look at them, do that kind of thing. Okay? Make it available for parent and guardian review before you teach it, yes.
Date rape?
Oh yeah, date rape should, where's that at? Yeah. Do you want, so these are some other issues besides teen pregnancy. Is sex trafficking an issue in your community? It is in one of the standards, and you are required by law in North Carolina to cover sex trafficking. Now, for me, when I was teaching, that was like a 15-minute conversation. It wasn't like we're going to spend 2 weeks talking about sex trafficking. But it really does matter when it's happening in your community, right? So where does it happen? It happens like on the I-95 corridor going through North Carolina, the big interstates. Those communities around there they have more action with sex trafficking than, you know.
Wait, so the rural part of North Carolina where it's just all along
85, 40, 95.
Yeah,
They
so
have more action.
At the ends, like there's these communities like right where South Carolina, North Carolina border, and then like North Carolina, Virginia.
If you look at a map of like sex trafficking, it tends to be around those interstates, and so does STIs, especially syphilis.
That's
Is around interstates. What the heck is going on the interstate?
I worry about my sister. She goes to Francis Marion in Florence, and it's right where 95 and 20 cross each other. So
Yeah, so a lot of people
they say
just,
Florence is like the worst for that.
Yeah, it's for real. Okay, sex trafficking, date rape. Is date rape an issue in your community? So, does anybody know anybody that goes to Lynchburg College or Lynchburg University? Lynchburg University has the highest rates of date rape on any campus in the United States.
Ooh.
So they, in their sex ed classes, they should talk about that. When I taught at Elon, we had really high rates of out of control alcoholism. So we were required to talk about alcohol stuff.
So like whatever goes on in the area is what you're specifically supposed to talk
Yeah,
about.
because they're interrelated, right? So alcohol and sex are often related. People make dumb decisions when they're drunk or high. Right? Okay, sexual assault, all that kind of stuff.
But here, like, when we like have our like athletic meetings, like they mainly talk about like drinking and stuff like that, and like hey, like if you're out drinking, like don't take nothing from nobody.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I tell girls, but the girls are getting more than us because it'd be ruthless.
They're a more vulnerable population. Yeah.
That's sad though.
Yeah. True. Okay, so curricular decisions, if you're ever in charge of it, get a committee, look at your issues, look at the data, grab people that are going to help you make a good decision, be methodical and go through it. Okay, that's that one. We good on that one? All right, so that's that topic, sex ed. And the next topic is value or okay. So this is just giving you a way to talk about your values. So value orientation. What are your values? What are your ethics? What do you value? Are relationships important to you? Is that something you value? Is money something you value? What about your time? Oh, I value my time so much. When people are like, we're gonna have just an impromptu meeting right here, I have to like not be like, no. Like I just hate, like if you email me the day before and say, hey, we really need to talk about something, can you stick around after? Like I'm okay with that, but I just have this, I don't know why, I just have this strange trigger about it. So what is it that you value? Family, your religion, your money, concepts like, the ability to make choices on your own, autonomy is the word I'm looking for. Any of those kind of things. But, education, clearly you value education because you're here, right? Ethics, behaviors related to your values. How do values and ethics come into play when we're talking about human sexuality? Are they important? And is it possible to be valueless? Can you just be like floating around?
Yeah.
Can you? I guess so. I think all of us, though, when it comes down to it, we do have values if we know it or not. Like if our sister or brother needed our help, we would probably help them. Even if they used to stick their dirty socks in your mouth when you were a child, fighting.
Does that happen to you?
Oh, my sister's just nasty. But am I there for my sister? I'm 100% there for my sister.
Okay.
Except for our political views. No, I'm kidding. So values. So, here's some questions. If two 16-year-olds love each other very much, is it okay for them to have sex?
No.
No.
Who cares?
Yeah, all right, okay. Is it okay for two gay males to room together in an all-male dorm? What if they're a couple? Is that okay?
No.
Okay. If two people are hedonists, right, anything goes. Have sex whenever, wherever, wear clothes if you want to or not, hedonists. If two people are hedonists, is it okay for them to hook up for a weekend of wild sex?
No.
No, why not?
I mean, you know what? That's their
It's
business.
risky.
They both have the same values.
Yeah.
They're hedonists. They're like, woohoo!
That's their business.
Yeah, maybe. But maybe not, is what I'm hearing. If one person is in a marriage, doesn't or can't have sex any longer, is it okay for the other person to have sex outside of the marriage? You're
No.
married to somebody,
No.
they have an injury, they get Alzheimer's,
Yeah.
something.
You made
Is it okay for the other person to go and have sex with somebody?
No.
Nah.
Okay. If two 13-year-olds are attracted to each other, how much physical contact is it okay for them to have?
None.
They can't
Very,
hold
very,
hands.
very
They
little
can't hold
amount.
hands.
I mean, you can hold hands and put
See,
your arm around each other.
This makes
That's
me
all.
sad that this class is online, because this is the stuff that I enjoy so much. Okay, is it okay to do birth control research in another country where such things are not regulated? Why or why not? So I used to live in Haiti.
You used to live where?
In Haiti. Are you Haitian?
You don't fucking
Oh, yeah.
Who bought that girl?
We.
Oh.
Anyway.
What?
So when I was in Haiti, they were doing birth control research on the implant, and I don't think they really told those Haitian women
Okay.
the side effects. They couldn't do it here at the time. They did it there, right? Is that okay?
No.
Absolutely. Oh, I mean, it's your decision to make. It's all your values. I'm not going to, I could tell you what I think, but I'm not going to. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. What do you think is happening in Vegas? Would you let your brother have his bachelor party in Vegas?
Yes.
Yeah.
Others.
Vegas can be very fun.
No, it's too hot out there.
You know what? It is hot out there. But I went to a conference
It get
there
cool at
in
night, though.
November. It was beautiful. Okay.
I would like to
I
sell
went one time and I got off the plane at like 8:30 or whatever and stepped outside.
At night.
Dry heat, yeah.
Yeah, it's kitchen. Yeah.
I ain't gonna lie, Kansas is the same way. Like,
Kansas is in the
Bacon.
middle.
So these are all questions, and you have an impulse of how you would answer them based on your values, don't you? What is important to you? Is it okay for 16-year-olds to have sex? Is it okay if you have Alzheimer's and your wife or husband is going to have sex with somebody else? You know what? That stuff happens.
and bachelor parties?
No, I'm talking about old people.
Oh.
Where one of us is incapacitated.
Oh, yeah.
It happens. Like this is the lifespan part of the class,
Like,
right?
that's hard because it's like, dang.
Yeah. It is hard. It's very hard. But you know what? You need to, so I'll tell you a little bit more about my sister. Besides that she used to stick her dirty socks in my mouth. Like she pinned me down. But my sister and her husband, there was somebody close to them. One person had Alzheimer's, and their wife wanted to go have a relationship with somebody else, and the person with Alzheimer's was institutionalized. Like, they were in really bad shape. And my sister and her husband sat down and said, what are we gonna do about this? Is it okay for one of us to have and they both were like, hell no. So they made a decision, because they saw it happen around them. They're like, no, you cannot go out and have the, whatever. Okay, so we're gonna talk about different types of, really quickly, we're gonna go through value orientations. And this, you have a worksheet that you do this week, and the value orientations are on the worksheet, but I'm gonna talk you through them very quickly. The first one is legalism. And legalism is just what you think it is. It has to do with the law. Do you believe in a particular law that directs your values? So this could be biblical law, it could be the Torah if you're Jewish, it could be the Quran if you're Muslim, it could be the state law of North Carolina, right? But are you a rule-following person? These are the laws. Like, if you're on a team right now, your coach has some laws, don't they?
Yeah.
So you pretty much have to follow them if you're gonna stay on the team. Okay, the next one is situational ethics. You make your decision-making is context-dependent and rules are flexible. So is it okay, we'll go back to that example of one person with Alzheimer's. Are you like, well, it's okay with me if you have, like, if I don't know what's going on and I have Alzheimer's, have fun, go ahead, have at it. That would be somebody who is following the value of situational ethics, right? To them, they've made a decision based on a specific situation. Now, if nobody has Alzheimer's, is that okay? No. But that situation, they're gonna say, okay, that's okay with me, all right? So, and there's another example here that gives you an idea of what situational ethics looks like. Ethical relativism, no one correct moral view. So you don't say 16-year-olds can't have sex. You say, well, if that 16-year-old is married, maybe that's okay. Or in this situation, it might be okay. Like, I've had a student that was 14 get married in my class, young girl. I know.
Mental maturity is a thing.
So I was not a fan of it.
It's
but
like
nobody
hard.
asked me.
It's like hard because it's like some of them really know what they're about to get into.
It was a
Muslim
arranged marriage.
Yep.
So are there some situations where that's situational ethics. But ethical relativism, honestly, as a teacher, that's where I try to be publicly, is that I try to be non-judgmental of any of your value orientations. I really do. I'm like, oh, if that works for you, that's great, right? So that's kind of that idea. Hedonism, if it feels good, do it. Run around naked, have sex with as many people as you want to, do all sorts of whatever. There's this place in Jamaica called Hedonism, right? Same thing. If you go, it's got big walls around it, and you can just imagine what kind of wildness is going on the inside. It's there. But hedonist, you'll hear somebody say, I'm a hedonist, or I'm a hedonistic perspective, or whatever. That means if it feels good, do it. They're following pleasure. Asceticism, this is like nuns, priests, monks, people that really deny some of their physical desires in search of a higher spiritual pursuit. Okay? Asceticism, self-denial, you get that one. Utilitarianism, moral conduct brings about the greatest amount of good for the greatest number of people. They're true to their word, they treat others justly, honesty serves the greatest good for the greatest number of people. So, I have a friend, the day she graduated from college, her dad announced to everybody that now that she had graduated, there were no more kids in the house, he was getting a divorce, and he was moved, because he felt like he needed to stay committed to those kids and to that family because it brought about the greatest good for the rest of the family, right? So he stuck with it. Do you think that's a good idea?
Yes.
But what if it's a really unhappy place? I know, tricky, right? Utilitarianism, rationalism, based on intellect and reason, not blind obedience. So you stay in an unhappy marriage because it serves the greatest good. Some of these overlap, right? This can overlap with rationalism. Well, this person is the right income, they're the right age, they look good enough, they have decent teeth, right? They're from an area close to mine. This is a good person for me to date. That's a rational decision, right? All right, so these are the 7 value orientations. I will say to you though, developmentally, it is typical for you all to start having different value orientations than your parents, right? So your parents might be legalists, and you're kind of like, well, but I know somebody, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you might start to break away from your parents. You
Oh, no,
may
my
end up
parents
coming.
are furious that I'm breaking them. They actually get mad.
Yeah.
Especially my mom.
I did not raise you to, yeah, that
My
kind
mom
of
gets
stuff.
really angry.
Why do they do that? Like, why do they get mad when you suddenly develop your own opinion?
I know.
Yeah, they get
Well,
so mad.
because they feel like there's distance between you now. So yeah, that
But
makes
isn't that part of growing up? If my kid doesn't
It
have
is.
the same like mindset as me, I'm not gonna force them to be like, oh, you have to think like this because I think like this.
Right, and that tells me that your value orientation isn't legalist. It's more, what's the one for the greater good for the greatest number of people? This one, rationalism. You're more rational, you're more utilitarian. Both of those are good for you, support both of those. Yeah. Okay, so I just want you to know that these things shift when you're your age. And when you're 24, they start to kind of find their own place, and when you're 30, they're a little bit clearer. But then they can blow to hell in a minute. Something could happen, and things could change. You know what I mean? So, there's that. So, here's your assignment that's on Canvas. It says for you to try, it might be easier if you did the little chart on the second page first, and then go back to the first page. But it really wants you to kind of look through value orientations. It gives you scenarios to think through and to say, well, if I were, hedonistic, I'd be like, that's fine, as long as nobody's getting hurt and has, have at it, go have fun, whatever. If your value orientation is asceticism, you'd be like, no, just no, right? A lot of denial. Okay. And then I want you to make your own little pie graph. Who are you? How much of you is this? How much of you is this? If the world were ending and you and somebody else were there, would it be okay to have sex with them if you didn't love them? Right? Utilitarian, right? That's a utilitarian model. Would you be like, okay, maybe a little bit of me is okay with that? Because somebody's got to take care of you when you're older. If you're the only 2 people in the universe.
Reproduction.
Maybe, yeah, somebody can go out and kill the deer for you to eat. I don't know. Okay. So you make a little pie chart, you answer some questions, you kind of do, anyway, it's just to try to get you to think about things. I, of course, will never tell anybody anything that you wrote in this assignment. So you can be 100% hedonistic, that's fine with me. I don't have any problem with that, right? No judgment. So there's that. So that's really value orientation. Does that play into when you're talking about stuff like teaching sex ed? Your value orientation? I think it does. Yeah. Do we want kids to know this information? Is it okay if they know about birth control? Do we think we really need to emphasize abstinence? Like, if you have a legalist viewpoint, if you're really somebody who's like, I follow whatever your legal text is, then that's going to be important to you, and that's going to show up in those conversations, right? So, anyway, have fun with those 2 assignments. So you've got the the sex ed assignment, and you've got the value orientation assignment. And then you've got one chapter quiz this week, and that is it. That's all I got for you. Questions, comments? I see you, I think, pretty soon to do birth control, right? I think within 2 weeks.
So like that.
Yeah, so,
Don't we meet twice a month?
yeah, I couldn't do it with the first ones. Or maybe I am doing it, I don't know. But I'm doing it based on topics, which has, I think from here on out, fleshed out to twice a month. So, there we go. Okay?
How many weeks have we been in school?